Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Concord Motorsports Park in Concord, North Carolina. I'm Aaron Johnson with the Johnson iRacing team. Today, we're bringing you a 40-lap feature, the top split in the Advanced Legends Cup Series for iRacing. This race features the best drivers on the iRacing service at the time the race was offered. Let's have a look at the starting grid. Starting in 11th spot, in car number 1, Austin Sturgeon from the Northwest region. Austin did not make the bell for the starting grid, so he will start from the pits. Starting in the 10th spot, in car number 10, racing out of Yamaguchi, Japan, it's Hiroyuki Sakaguchi, Hiro, in that blue and red Legends car that is reminiscent of the old Richard Petty paint schemes. Starting in 9th, in car number 9, it is Paolo Parisi. Paolo, racing out of Italy. Starting in the 8th spot, in car number 6, racing out of Knoxville, Tennessee, it's Jeremiah Moore in a car that really is the inverse of the car of Hiro Sakaguchi. Starting in the 7th spot, in car number 00, he's going to show up on your telemetry as car number 4. In race trim, he will be 00. That is Kaleb Gillock, Kaleb racing out of Minnesota. Starting in the 6th spot, in car number 11, racing with us out of California, that's Darren Anderson. Starting in the 5th spot, in car number 7, that's Jeff Cuffs, Jeff from New Jersey. Starting in the 4th spot, in car number 2, racing out of Japan, it's Kusei Hasoya, Kusei in the purple and white Legends car. Starting in the 3rd spot, in car number 9, Stephen Merrill racing out of New England. In the 2nd starting spot, in car number 3, the SpongeBob SquarePants Legends car of Dylan McCabe. And on the pole, in car number 5, it's the Hellman's Mayonnaise car of Keith Young. Keith racing out of Canada. The pace car leads the field into turn 1. We've got the 1 to go sign. Lights on the pace car are off. We're going to ride along with the 5 of Keith Young. Concord, a unique track. It's got a dog leg on the back straightaway. Really looks more like a tri-oval. The pace car is in. Young leading the field by. It's going to be Keith Young setting the pace as they come out of turn number 4 onto the front straightaway. Young hammers the throttle. He's going to take a quick early lead. The 2 of Kusei Hasoya looks to the outside. They're 3 wide going into turn 1. Hasoya on the outside. It's the 3 of McCabe on the inside. Young with the lead. McCabe quickly out of turn number 2, now through the dogleg. It's going to be the 5 of Young, then McCabe as they come out of turn number 4. Young and McCabe stretching that lead out. Hasoya in 3rd, Merrill in 4th, Cuffs in 5th. Kaleb Gillock has moved up into the 6th spot with Paolo Parisi dropping back to 7th. Already a car a lap down. That's the 11 of Darren Anderson having trouble on the inside. We're on lap number 2 of 40, beginning lap number 3. Spin on the front straightaway in front of the leaders. The car disappears. That looked like the 6 of Jeremiah Moore. Some trouble early, but Keith Young managing to stay out of trouble and hold on to the lead on lap 3 of 40. It's Keith Young followed by McCabe, Hasoya, Merrill, and Cuffs rounding out the top 5. Out front, Keith Young extends the lead slightly over the 3 of McCabe. Then it's Hasoya, Merrill, and Cuffs. Let's walk through the field. We're riding along with the 5 of Keith Young. Let's see what we can see a little further back. Behind Keith Young, it's the 3 of Dylan McCabe running 2nd. The SpongeBob SquarePants car closing slightly on McCabe. Behind them, it's the 2 of Kusei Hasoya. Hasoya running 3rd. Behind Hasoya, it's Stephen Merrill in the 9 car in 4th. Behind Merrill, the 7 of Jeff Cuffs is 5th. And Kaleb Gillock in 00 running in the 6th spot. Behind Gillock, it's the 8 of Paolo Parisi, followed by the 10 of Hiro Sakaguchi. Behind Sakaguchi, Darren Anderson is running in 11th. And Jeremiah Moore is in the pits. We're back out to the leader. That is the 5 of Keith Young. Young holding on to the lead over Dylan McCabe. Keith Young leads, McCabe 2nd, Kusei Hasoya in 3rd, but fading. It's Young, McCabe, Hasoya, Merrill, Cuffs running in the top 5. Kaleb Gillock is in the 6th spot. Out front, Keith Young and Dylan McCabe pull away from the rest of the field. Kusei Hasoya in 3rd. That's a spin by the 6 of Jeremiah Moore. Moore is 6 laps down. Also looks like the 8 of Paolo Parisi is coming into view as Keith Young is setting a blistering pace. We're on lap 9 of 40. The spin, this time it's the 7 of Jeff Cuffs. Cuffs had been running in the 5th spot. That'll put Kaleb Gillock up into 4th as the leaders go around Paolo Parisi. Quite racy here. Lap 10 of 40. We're a quarter of the way through this race. It is Keith Young out front, followed by the 3 of Dylan McCabe, then Kusei Hasoya. McCabe trying to find a way to close on that 5 car and maybe make a pass for the lead. We're on lap 10 of 40. We've got a car up against the wall. That looked like the 7 of Jeff Cuffs. Cuffs having trouble. He's headed into the pits. It's Young, McCabe, Hasoya, Gillock, Merrill, your top 5. Hiroki Sakaguchi in 6th, the last car on the lead lap. Out front, Keith Young setting the pace. The 3 of Dylan McCabe has closed slightly on Young. McCabe closing them in about 2 car lengths. It's going to be Young and McCabe out front. No one else anywhere near them. This is a 2-car race for the lead. Young and McCabe leading. They're closing in on the lapped car of Anderson. Young and McCabe get together. There's a crash. Young and McCabe crash. Oh, goodness. And then Young turns and he catches the 00 of Kaleb Gillock. What in the world was Young thinking, turning into traffic like that? This has been quite a confusing sequence of events as Kaleb Gillock gets caught up in someone else's mistake. Kusei Hasoya will take the lead. It's Hasoya out front with Merrill 2nd, Gillock 3rd, McCabe 4th, and Young now having dropped back to the 5th spot. Let's hop in with the 2-car of Kusei Hasoya. Hasoya, the beneficiary of a mistake by the 5 of Keith Young and the 3 of McCabe. Those 2 cars crash. Then Young turns into traffic and takes out Kaleb Gillock. Gillock has still running in the 4th spot, manages to recover after the car flipped on the front straightaway. It's Hasoya up front, Stephen Merrill in 2nd, Dylan McCabe 3rd, Kaleb Gillock. No, Dylan McCabe now 2nd, so somehow Dylan McCabe has made his way back into the 2nd spot. Young has dropped to 5th. It's Hasoya, McCabe, Merrill, Gillock, Young. Dylan McCabe about a straightaway behind Kusei Hasoya. We're going to ride along with Hasoya, and let's walk through the field and see what kind of damage we're going to see here. There's the 3 of McCabe. McCabe's car looks to be mostly unhurt. Behind him, the 00 of Kaleb Gillock. Gillock showing some damage, left front fender gone. That car banged up. Behind Gillock, it's the 5 of Keith Young. Young, after that spin, trying to work his way back to the front as well. Then behind Young, we see the 9 of Stephen Merrill. Those are your top 5. Behind Merrill, that's the lapped 7 car of Cuffs. There's the 8 of Paolo Parisi, also lapped. Behind Parisi, the 10 of Hiro Sakaguchi. Hiro running in the 6th spot, the last car on the lead lap. Behind Sakaguchi, it's the 11 of Darren Anderson. He's a lap down. Then we're back around to the 3 of McCabe. McCabe running in the 2nd spot, trying to close on the 2 of Kusei Hasoya. Hasoya running a fairly high line around the racetrack. That might save some tires, but it is not the fast way around this speedway. Kusei Hasoya is going to have to find a way to get that car down on the yellow line if he's going to be able to hold off a charging Dylan McCabe. McCabe spun earlier as he and Keith Young got together. It's Hasoya, McCabe, Gillock, Young, Merrill, your top 5. Kusei Hasoya with about half a straightaway lead. Dylan McCabe closing quickly as Kusei Hasoya is not finding the quick way around this racetrack. Lapped car spun there. Hasoya managed to miss him. Hasoya now back down onto that yellow line, still fighting to find a good smooth line around the racetrack, and it shows. Dylan McCabe closing very quickly on the 2 of Kusei Hasoya. Hasoya leads, McCabe 2nd, Kaleb Gillock running 3rd, but there's a battle brewing between Gillock and the 5 of Keith Young. Remember, Young's the one who came out of traffic into the driving line and put Gillock into the wall early on. So it's Gillock trying to hold off the 5 of Keith Young. Those 2 cars battling for 3rd spot. And up front, it looks like Dylan McCabe has caught Kusei Hasoya. So Dylan McCabe's going to take the lead from Kusei Hasoya, and Kaleb Gillock is trying to hold off the 5 of Keith Young. Out front, Dylan McCabe's taking the lead. We're going to keep our eyes on this battle between Gillock and Young. Gillock with that damaged race car. Keith Young trying to find his way around. Young bounces off the wall. He's driving that car hard. Kaleb Gillock down onto the yellow line as they come through the through turn 1, now into the dog leg. Gillock running a nice smooth line. He comes up high. They turn down into turn 3 and 4. Gillock running a higher line as Keith Young closes in. Out front, Dylan McCabe is beginning to pull away from the rest of the field. It's Dylan McCabe closing in on the 8 of Paolo Parisi. Parisi already 1 lap down. McCabe will put Parisi 2 laps down. A little internet lag here as it looks like Kaleb Gillock's having some internet problems. This is a replay from Gillock's perspective. Out front, it is Dylan McCabe. 13 laps to go. It's McCabe, Hossoya, Gillock, Young, Merrill, your top 5. Dylan McCabe continues to lead. He's followed by Paolo Parisi, then Kaleb Gillock and Keith Young. Gillock closing in on the 2 of Kusei Hossoya. Kaleb Gillock trying to find his way around Kusei Hossoya. Gillock looks to the inside. There's a lapped car ahead of them. Gillock behind Kusei Hossoya holding Gillock up, and that's allowing the 5 to close. All 3 cars go to the inside of Paolo Parisi. Goodness gracious, how tight was that? Hossoya on the outside, Gillock on the inside. Keith Young looks to the outside. It's a 3-car battle for second. Young dives to the inside of Kaleb Gillock. Keith Young's going to make the pass on Gillock. He tags Hossoya, puts Gillock into the wall. Goodness gracious, another crash. Hard driving by Keith Young creates another incident on the front straightaway. That's going to put Young into second, but at the expense of Kusei Hossoya. Keith Young overdriving the race car, turns Hossoya around, takes out Gillock. That's going to put Merrill into the 4th spot. Kaleb Gillock, the victim of Keith Young yet again. Out front, it's Dylan McCabe, then Keith Young, Kusei Hossoya, Stephen Merrill, and Kaleb Gillock. Gillock a lap down through no fault of his own, having been crashed twice in this event, trying to stay out of trouble. Out front, Dylan McCabe runs a nice, smooth line as he leads with 8 to go. It's McCabe, Young, Hossoya, Merrill, and Sakaguchi. Kaleb Gillock has dropped all the way back to the 6th spot after that incident, racing for second. Out front, Dylan McCabe with the lead. Keith Young second, Hossoya third, Merrill 4th, then Sakaguchi, Gillock, Parisi, and Anderson make up the top 8. Jeff Cuffs and Jeremiah Muir are out of the event. They've taken their cars to the pits. Dylan McCabe out of turn 4 onto the front straightaway. He crosses the start-finish line, 6 to go. McCabe running a nice, smooth race after that initial contact with Keith Young. McCabe has been nearly flawless. McCabe with a huge lead, a 13-second gap back to second place. That's Keith Young, then Hossoya and Stephen Merrill, the last 2 cars on the lead lap. Behind them, Hiro Sakaguchi is in 5th, Kaleb Gillock 6th, Parisi 7th, Anderson 8th. Those 8 cars, the only cars remaining on the speedway. Dylan McCabe, a nice smooth line, 5 to go, now 4 to go. It is Dylan McCabe, no one in his mirror. All he needs to do is run a nice smooth line and stay out of trouble, and this race will belong to him. The SpongeBob SquarePants Legends car will be in victory lane. Out of turn 4, onto the front straightaway. McCabe nearly catches the wall. There are 3 to go. McCabe is closing in on a lapped car here. That lapped car looks like it could be could it be the 10 of Sakaguchi? No, that's not the right color. It's the 9 of Stephen Merrill. So McCabe looking to put the 4th place car a lap down. 2 to go. McCabe out of turn number 2 onto the, really into the dog leg. Now through the dog leg, gets underneath the 9 of Merrill. That's going to put Merrill a lap down. There are 3 cars left on the lead lap. McCabe, Young, and Hossoya. Kaleb Gillock has found his way around Hiro Sakaguchi, so Gillock has moved back into the 5th spot after all kinds of trouble today. Out front with 1 to go, it is Dylan McCabe. McCabe in the SpongeBob SquarePants Legends car will take the win today. He comes through turn 3 now into the middle of 3 and 4, out onto the front straightaway. It's going to be Dylan McCabe with the win. Behind McCabe, the 5 of Keith Young will come home second. Behind Young, it will be the 2 of Kusei Hossoya in third. Behind Hosoya, the lapped cars of Stephen Merrill and Kaleb Gillock will come home fourth and fifth, respectively. There's the 00 of Gillock beating all the smithereens after a pretty tough race. Behind them, it will be Hiro Sekiguchi, Paolo Parisi, Darren Anderson, Jeff Cuffs, and Jeremiah Moore rounding out the top 10. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was an action-packed race from Concord Motorsport Park. Keith Young earns the title of Mr. Excitement as he makes sure everyone stays on their toes. A good hard race, McCabe finishing first, Young recovering to finish second, and Kusei Hosoya racing out of Japan, making up your top three. For the Johnson iRacing team on the Johnson iRacing Network, this is Aaron Johnson saying, go fast, turn left, have fun.